Hi, I'm Ray Dickey from Association Help Now, South Carolina CAI, and Hudson Valley CAI. Thank you so much for being here today. Today, our topic is manager and board personal safety. I feel very strongly about these topics. I really want managers and board members to feel safe. I don't want to scare anybody, but I will, if that's what it's going to take for you just to think about your own safety. Before I go any further, I am going to launch a poll as soon as I can find it. If you are here for CEUs, click which one that you need. Everyone has a question feature. That's how you communicate with me today. You can send me comments. They don't have to be questions. They could be about anything. I love questions and I love comments. I can't stand it when I don't hear from anyone. I feel like I'm all by myself. I don't use people's names, so feel free to ask whatever you would like. But I could make a mistake. So don't send me anything too top secret, but you shouldn't be doing that anyway. And I'm going to close the poll pretty quickly. So you're going to use your, if I close it on you, use the question feature and say, hey, Ray, I need CEU. So once again, please communicate with me today. I would greatly appreciate that very much. Use that question feature. You want to comment on Adam's hair? By all means, send that in. I want to hear what you think about Adam's hair, and he loves to hear about it too.
Adam's hair is awesome.
Any questions not related to the program today, I'm going to do in overtime. I'll just, we'll do them quick. So just so you're aware. So feel free to send me whatever you like. With that being said, I'd like to welcome our panel with our special guest today. And we have two Toms. So let's just make the assumption if it's about like cool stuff, right? Like security and being a Secret Service agent and basically being like an American hero. I'm referring to Tom Landry. If it's about banking and you need a loan and you want to know the current interest rate, we'll go to Tom Ingram. With that being said, cool Tom, hero Tom, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. That was entirely over the top. Tom Landry, retired from the U.S. Secret Service. I did 25 years of government service. Was very fortunate to be a fly on the wall in an incredible time in America and in an incredible agency, really, that is front and center these days a lot. And ultimately, we're here to help you improve your safety and security. Hopefully, we can take some of those lessons learned over those 25 years and help your listeners.
I did ask Tom who he thought looked like the most dangerous person on the panel, but I am not going to release the answer because I don't think that would be very fair. Tom, also, just take a note of Greg Girelli. I've been very suspicious of him for the last 5 years. If you could look into that, I would appreciate it very much so. He's just too nice. There's just too many. He's like the super nice guy. And I don't know. Something just, I don't know.
Only if he's a counterfeiter, right, Tom? Otherwise, you're not really involved.
Exactly right. Narrow scope. You're fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I doubt he's a counterfeiter. All right. Dr. Ingram.
Hi, Tom Ingram, worked for Citizen Bank in the industry for quite a bit and do banking and lockbox, and it is a boring topic to talk about, but we make it fun.
Actually, Tom, you're not boring though. You do CMCA courses around the country. You have 2 books, one that is just coming out on burnout, and you have your PhD about burnout. So you actually are an interesting person. Banking's still boring, but you are interesting. But
thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that.
Okay. Next up is John.
It's John Legumina from Legumina Law Firm in Purchase, New York. We represent condominiums, co-ops, and HOAs from New York City throughout the Hudson Valley areas.
Greg.
Good morning, everyone. Greg Girelli with Girelli Insurance Agency. We're located in Cold Spring, New York, and we have community association insurance master policy programs for condos, co-ops, and townhomes throughout New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania.
And I really don't think that Greg's up to no good. I just like to say so because he's so incredibly nice, which he is. Corey.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Corey Kravitz. I'm the managing principal of Kovich Schifrin Nesbitt's Florida office. We're a full-service community association law firm with offices in Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Florida.
Corey loves hockey. If you want to send emails to Corey about hockey, he loves to get them. Just contact me. I'll get you his contact information. Next is Adam. Already getting comments. Adam's hair looks fantastic. There
Thank
go.
you. Good morning, Adam Clarkson with Clarkson, McAlonis, and O'Connor. We are a law firm serving all of South Carolina from our Charleston office. I'm a fellow of the College of Community Association Lawyers with CAI. I'm also the vice chair of your legislative action committee for South Carolina.
Dave, does it bother you when I tell everyone what an animal lover you are? Because I'm serious. I am so impressed by it. Are you embarrassed by it? Is it okay if I tell people, or do you want me to stop telling the audience?
No, I think it's important. I wish everybody was an animal lover. It's horrible what happens to animals. I can't say I'm like a vegan or something. I mean more like, I believe in natural things you have to eat and kill animals for, but unnecessary cruel and abuse is a horrible thing.
See what happens, Tom? Secret Service guy. Everything turns into a lot of explanations from the lawyers. Animal lover would have just sufficed. Okay. With that being said, Dave, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, animal lover would suffice, but I don't want anybody leaving the idea that I have to, if they ever see me, they can't offer me a hamburger. My name is Dave Byrne. I'm the chairperson of my law firm's community association practice, Ansel, Grimm, and Aaron, and we represent HOAs, condominiums, and cooperatives in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania.
Oh, I'm already getting a lot of security questions. Great. Awesome. Lots of commentary from the audience. With that being said, I'm going to keep Greg around and Tom, because I just like to look at 4 people. And I'm going to let the lawyers jump off because they want to do work. They're going to do some probably billable hours. I know they are. And they'll half listen to the program. So there's no reason to make them hang. Tom Inglum, you could stay. Come on back. Come on back. Okay, there you go. You have time, Tom. I know you got more time. You got all the time in the world. So Tom Inglum. With that being said, this is kind of the schedule for today. We're going to take a break around 11:10, keep with the topic. At 11:15, I'm going to have everybody come on and we're going to keep going on. And at 11:40, when the program ends, if you want to stay, you could stay and we'll answer a couple questions unrelated to the program. And at 12 o'clock, I would suggest taking a nap. If you're, if you have the ability to do so. Greg does, but for, anyone else can, please do. That being said, I have broke the program into wrong weapons, office setup, communication, and we're going to take a break. Police, what happens when they show up. This is actually very important. And de-escalation. So the first section is going to be wrong weapons in the office. Tom, I brought up a few items. What was my main concern with weapons in the office today? We spoke about it a little bit before we went live.
Yeah. Earlier, basically any weapons you bring in, number one, can be used against you, right? So you have to really think about that, what you bring in the office and how you use it. I always tell folks, think of a couple things, right? What are your risks? What do you think are your real risks, right? Then what is legal? I know there's a lot of lawyers on the show, but what is legal in your area where you live? It matters. It makes a big difference. I live in Texas, so essentially it's all available. Which is good. And lastly, what is your capabilities and training, right? Because you're not going to have muscle memory for these things. And for your listeners, like you're not going to just pick it up and be amazing at self-defense unless you practice it or think about it and make it part of your process. I see all the times, my wife wants to buy a gun and I'm hey, ultimately I'm pro 2A, that's great. But if you're not going to practice with it, if you're not going to train with it, if you're not going to be comfortable with it, then it really almost increases your risk in many ways, right? So you got to be just really careful what weapons you bring into your office and your home, frankly.
Even mace, Tom, people have an illusion of how powerful mace is.
Right.
For me, I think it's just an escape tool. Otherwise, don't use it. It's not going to. People can fight through mace and you may just make them angry. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because one thing I'm afraid, if you touched upon it, is people have an overconfidence. I'm going to use this baseball bat. I'm going to use mace. You want to know something? Unless you trained in it or you're really physically fit, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And I mean, you look and we see a lot of videos of law enforcement using force legally in their purpose, and you see how often it works well. Not very often. And that's for trained professionals. So imagine folks that are just picking this up, you're going to be under tremendous stress and pressure of which you're probably not used to responding. And you're really going to struggle with that. And so mace for sure is a tool to consider. But bear in mind, a motivated attacker, it can fight through mace, and then not only that, you're going to mace yourself too. I mean, I don't know if you're ever familiar with it. When it gets atomized and it gets out in the environment, you're going to be suffering the effects from that too. So just something to consider as well. It's not a magic bullet, as they say.
Do you think a safe bet for a comment on this portion, Tom, would be that don't utilize a weapon like mace or a bat unless you know you can run away?
Yeah.
Right afterwards. Those weapons are good to startle someone to escape.
Right.
Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, that's everything. Obviously DHS does run, hide, fight for active assailants, and I'm a big proponent of running, right? So, it's the smart play. And you think about the Secret Service, we are completely designed to run away, if you think about it. So we are not designed to sit and fight. We're designed to escape issues and aggression, because your attacker has the upper hand, because they're surprising you almost certainly, right? And that startle response, they're going to have an advantage. And so having the ability to do something, whether it be mace or your physical capabilities to fight back a little bit, all that's doing is designing to give you time to escape. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about later on, some of the ways to do that and some of the best practices. But yeah, it's all designed to buy time. That's all that is.
And I'm going to get to the questions, audience, just so you know, I'm not skipping them. So we're going to move pretty quickly through here. A lot of questions. Tom, very, very quickly. Have you ever been maced?
I have, yes. Yes.
I'm Dr. Ingbloom. Have you ever been maced?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very quickly. Can you tell me why in 20 seconds, or you can't?
I was at an event and the crowd got out of control, and I was just standing there, and the overflow, the wind took it my way.
Sounds like the typical excuse of somebody that was doing something that they shouldn't and tells the police, hey, I wasn't doing anything. I'm just no, I'm sure. All right, Greg, do you have any weapons at the office? No, you don't have to answer.
Not going to answer one. Also, I have not been maced, but it's very good assumption to assume whoever you're going against has more skill and is faster than you are.
To leave it, Tom and I were talking about this before. If you're going to mace somebody, watch the wind direction too. Believe me, because I've been maced and it's uncomfortable, but it won't stop you sometimes. All right, office setup and awareness. The ones I came up on this one, Tom. Did you need to add anything to the other one, Tom, before I move on? Wrong weapons, or we covered it?
Okay. Just having an assessment of your own capabilities, right? Just be honest about it, right? Everyone thinks you're going to, it's like the movies, you're going to rise to the occasion and you're going to be the hero. That's just simply not the case. And I think, until you're in that situation when you're really, really under stress, you're not going to realize how poorly you're going to perform.
The next one is office setup and awareness. I came up with entry, which is obvious, who's getting into your place. Sight lines, which I thought was interesting. Exits, which is obvious. You want to face the door, and then the space buffer. So entry is pretty obvious, right, Tom? You want to control who's coming in and out. Not much. Sight lines I thought was interesting, but I don't know if it's really practical, Tom. Do you agree or disagree?
If you have the ability to control some of these things, that's awesome. That'd be great. I'd highly recommend you do. But let's face it, a lot of times you're kind of stuck with the type of building you have, right? You don't really have much choice to, you can only do so much, right? So you're kind of hamstrung by your office setup.
I would go as far too to say if you're a manager and you're thrown in like the darkest corner of your building, like at the Girelli compound, I'm sure the Girelli office is so huge that there could be somebody like in a far distant cellar all by themselves, and they may be afraid, and they should come to Greg and say, look, I'm afraid to work in this part of the building. Tom, do you agree? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no. In fact, if you're uncomfortable at work, you have to speak up, right? Because everyone sees the workplace in a different way, right? So at the head office there, it's probably a little bit different than your first line employee, who very well might be public facing as well and in increased risk. So something to think about.
One other comment about
story too. I have a short story of something that happened here later if you need.
You want to tell us right now? Because
sure.
We want to hear.
So we're in a very nice office building, normal day like today. We are off a main road. Front door is open and we have a receptionist always there. One day Mary's at the front desk. Two guys walk in. One of them's bleeding, beaten up and tired. and asked her to call the police. We didn't realize, because we didn't have cameras or any sight, they got into a road rage fight out on the main road, didn't know they were both going to the same place, pulled into our parking lot because they were both coming here, got into a fight outside that no one saw till they were tired, and then stumbled in, thankfully calm and collected and together. And we separated them, had the police here, and we now have security cameras and changed some of our practices because we had no idea.
Yeah, that
Tom,
access control is everything. Yeah.
I think the good lesson there too, Tom, is you don't, when someone comes in your office and says that, it's actually a great point. I'm glad Greg brought it up. I don't trust anybody. Somebody shows up at your office and says, I've been in a car accident or someone's following me. You want to go right into your own safety protocols. Do you agree, Tom?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we're all nice folks, and you want to help, and you want to be, generous with your time and attention. But remember, bad guys are going to take advantage of that, right? They're assuming that you're going to be helpful and put yourself in a more dangerous and compromised position. So, look, you want to help. I get it. I'm not going to say slam the door in their face, but you need to take reasonable precautions, especially for female employees that may be working by themselves. You really want to think about that and think about having a procedure in place, because that empowers your employer as well to say, I want to help you, but I can't open the door because this is our policy. I'm going to get you help. I'll call 911. We'll get you help, but I'm not going to put myself at risk. Because without that, the bad guys are waiting and they're hoping that you will, put yourself out there.
Yeah. Also, Tom, I don't know if you know, Greg has at least 3 employees who can sacrifice themselves between himself and the front door because he's so important. It's a company policy when you work at Girelli.
That's going to be a new leadership book coming out, right?
Well, Greg, Greg can't afford to be lost. There's just no way.
Yeah.
Space buffer. Tom, we had an example that we discussed. Could you bring it up?
Certainly in the office, you're talking about space buffering. When you have a desk in between you and an employee, this happens a lot in terminations. And a termination is really something to really plan for and think about. And so, people are losing their jobs. Of course, my hope is that everyone has a process in place so that no one's surprised when they lose their job, right? It should be well established. Hey, you're not performing well here over a period of time, performance improvement. But that space buffer is really important because you think someone will respond in a way right up until they surprise you, and next thing you know, they're right on top of you. So making sure you have something physically between you and an individual is key. And I wouldn't use a rolling chair. I wouldn't use things like that. I would use a desk, like something harder that is a little more robust to provide you that reaction time. And that's really what we're talking about here, is creating some space for reaction time.
And personally, how anybody could work with their back to the door, I have no idea. Plenty of people do it. That's cool. Good for you. But you're just leaving yourself completely susceptible to.
We talked about this a little bit earlier as well. Exits, you work in the same office for a long time. You develop a rhythm and a pattern. Most of us, you're not even thinking about it. You're just going to your office and you're doing your thing. But what happens when you can't use the same door you've used every day for 10 years at this office? Right? What other ways are you going to get in and out of your facility in an emergency? That's something you should think about in advance, because when you're putting that pressure, you're not going to make good decisions. So a little pre-planning goes a long way.
Dr. Tom, have you ever had to run away in a situation?
Yes, actually I have.
All right. You want to share it? Is it short?
Well, I mean, I was actually at a property and we were going through what Tom said, terminating someone, and the individual became very violent. Fortunately, I had 2 other maintenance staff with me that were good size, but yeah, we all decided to get out of there because he was very violent, and we called the police.
That's too bad. I mean, I don't know if the audience knows, Tom was a manager for many, many years. You got to mention that, Tom, in your intro, that you were a manager, because sometimes I don't do a very good job of lots of comments too, which I love.
And Ray, if I could add one thing, we're talking about terminations. A lot of this revolves around that termination. It's 2025. People work virtually a lot now. Please use it. Take advantage of the virtual platform to do some of these things if you think it's appropriate. We all, again, this is going back to, we all want to be the nice person. We want to be, we want to treat our employees with respect, and you feel like, hey, man to man, eye to eye, I'm going to do this. but just bear in mind that's not a good thing. So, ultimately use that virtual platform.
What's interesting, Tom, is I never thought when I put this program together about danger from someone already in the office. I don't want to get sidetracked, but
Yeah.
you're so correct and you're so right. I would have never mentioned it. It never
Yeah.
entered my mind of being assaulted from someone from the office. And I want to move on to the next topic, but thanks so much for mentioning it, right? Because I completely overlooked it.
I will mention that workplace violence, internal workplace violence, is absolutely booming. It is booming isn't a negative term, not isn't a good way, of course, but the incidence of internal employee on employee or former employee on employee violence is a real thing and absolutely can't be ignored.
Communication and being prepared, but having some policies in play or some kind of operation in play, being ready to go if something happens. I came up with who relays the info. Somebody in the office should be the person who's going to be in charge of relaying info to other people. And then, Tom, I was shocked that I never utilized this for my child. Code word. So the relay part is easy. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of a code word?
Certainly. Yes, certainly. So not only when you're having an interaction with someone, and you may hopefully you're going to pick up on some yellow or orange flags where you feel unsafe. Don't ignore those, please. And having a plan and code words is very helpful, because then you can alert those around you that, hey, something's going wrong, I need some assistance, without actually coming out being so direct and obvious that, hey, I'm scared for myself. My family, we use code words all the time. I don't want to go to Philadelphia is our danger phrase. And I'm born right outside Philadelphia in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And so we always say, I don't want to go to Philadelphia. Is for my kids and for my wife. We all know that that's our danger word, that something's wrong and they can't speak freely because of something going on around them. And so having those in place is key, because you want to activate first responders or maybe even just someone else in your office to come in to your office to start to de-escalate. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. For whatever reason, you need some assistance, and getting that as fast as possible is key, because you don't want things to keep going down a bad path.
So here's a scenario to be clear. Greg runs the company. I am confronted by someone. I'm in danger. Obviously, I don't want to pick up the phone in front of the individual, but I may have to comment, you know what, I gotta call this person right away, or he's gonna come in my office, or he's gonna call me right back. Let me just get him off the phone. I use the code word when I call Greg. Greg, I would like to have a salami sandwich. Now the perpetrator's not aware, and now
Right.
Greg, as the person who's been trained, he goes to the next step and takes whatever action has been pre-planned. I think that's a pretty good example. Tom, are you happy with it?
Yeah, I'm very happy. And I want to go one step further. Even is you said, hey, whatever pre-planned actions that we have, you got to make sure you have that pre-planned action plan in place, because just letting someone else know outside, that's a great first step. But if they don't know what to do, then they're going to be, then you got to have a plan from start to finish. And finish means having the law enforcement, first responders, professionals who get paid to do this on site to protect everybody that needs it.
And if it's me, Greg, I expect you to come barging in the office, by the way, because I'm older than you and I need the help. So you can sacrifice yourself for me.
I'll come running in with mace.
And then Tom England, by the way, when we're traveling, I always try to spend time with Tom. My code word is going to be, you pick up the check. You pick up the check. Okay. So that's going to be my code word to you going forward. Police response realities. I think this is so important, Tom. Yeah. Expect intensity. The cops they're not very calm sometimes. They're people.
Sure.
You need to stay calm. Don't run towards the cops.
Right.
They don't like that. They don't know who you are. And phones down. Everybody wants to fill everything. Tom, take us further, please.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine, put yourself in a police officer's or a sheriff's role. They get the call that there's an emergency and someone needs help right away, maybe someone with a weapon. They are trying to get there as fast as possible to respond, to put the problem down in whatever best way possible. They're there looking at and looking for an adversary or an assailant. So if you are, run, hide, fight is the DHS protocol that we support. if you do evacuate, hopefully you have good plans in place that we talked about. Let the police officers and responding officers do their job, which is to bring the bad guy into custody. And once that's done, get medical care for anyone who might need it. So that's the second piece that comes up with that. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with swatting, the concept of swatting.
They may not be familiar. Can you give them a very brief description of it?
Sure, real brief. So essentially, it came out of the video game culture where an individual will call the local police department and make a report of a man with a gun or a murder or something like that. So in an attempt to get law enforcement to respond with the SWAT team in a very intense manner, right? And at the low end, it's harassment kind of, but at the high end, people can get injured in these because law enforcement will come in expecting to see a barricaded gunman or a kidnapping or a murder. And if you're in Texas, everyone has a gun here, and someone breaks in my door, that's going to be a contentious couple of seconds there, right? So, and so we want to be aware of that too. And so, law enforcement responds, especially in some of the mass casualty events. They're going to go past you. They don't want to deal with you. They want to deal with the problem. And that includes going past injured people as well, which is hard sometimes for people to grasp.
Yeah. But people got to remember the cops don't know who you are. So if you run right at them, you could end up getting yourself shot. So
no question.
And then you're going to be a victim. So you just got to stay calm and just plan that the police are at a high state of excitement here, and don't get in their way too. Let them just, once let them do their job. Don't be Tom, Secret Service, when I call the hotel for Tom Inglum to get a fake wake up call at like 3 a.m., would that be considered swatting, or is that acceptable?
I think that's okay. I think that's not quite swatting. That's good.
Okay. Greg, any commentary? Have you ever had any experience with the police in any manner like this?
No, not in this nature, but it's been excellent advice.
Okay. Would you volunteer to be a volunteer SWAT person?
Probably not. That's not my training and expertise.
I would, even though I'm completely not physically or trained whatsoever, because I think it would be fun, and I would probably just be useless, but I would do it in a heartbeat. And so would Tom Inglum. I'm telling you right now, we would love, if there's a police department out there that would take Tom and I in, we'd love to be volunteer SWAT people, but we can't stay up late. We're tired. We're old. Yeah. Okay. The next one is, and no, not too scary. I don't want to get hurt. Okay. I just want to do the easy ones. Next one is de-escalation skills. And I think this is kind of the last one. Not trying to win. I don't know why people try to win with crazy people. Control yourself. Safe distance, which people don't do. I see this all the time. And then disengage.
Yeah.
Tom, how many people have gotten injured or hurt because they're trying to win an argument with a crazy person who hurts them?
Yeah. So not only a mentally unstable person, right, but just normal, let's call normal, like non-mentally ill folks. Arguments and de-escalation skills are so critically important, right? I'm a Red Sox fan, right? I am a Boston Red Sox fan. So, Yankees fans, I mean, we're not going to have an argument and decide who's the better franchise and who's this and that. But I can't tell you how many fights start every year because neither side will try and back down, right? And you can only yell at each other so much. And then ultimately it escalates to using your fists. A couple of the flags to think about is that distance you mentioned, right? We've all seen it before, right? People start closing that gap, right? When they're talking less and they're not even listening to one another, they're just yelling at each other. You can only yell so loud, and then it's gonna keep escalating, right? And then disrespect. A lot of times people, when they feel like they've been disrespected, right, in some way, or you've ignored them, then they will escalate to violence. And so, who cares? Red Sox, Yankee, who cares, right? Like, do I have to win that argument? No, let it go.
Our audience, actually, this is a major issue with them. They deal with angry people all the time, and they misdirect it at the management companies all the time. So this is we've done entire programs about de-escalation. I'm curious, Tom, and you may not have an answer to this. When you were on the front line of the Secret Service, like in uniform, in patrol, what in law enforcement, if you don't want to tell me, that's fine too. What is considered a safe distance? Like for me, arm's length is obvious, but is it 6 feet? Like I'm thinking, is there a safe distance that you have time to react?
So 21 feet is commonly referred to as the reactionary gap, but I think that's a little bit outside the normal conversation zone. So every time people get closer than that you're accepting more risk. And unfortunately, that's just the part of many jobs, is that you have to have discussions with people, communications, and you can always see online or on television law enforcement officers asking people to take a step back, right? It's because they're inside that reactionary gap area. Well, that's to defend themselves with their weapons, et cetera. If you're having a conversation at a normal distance, and we've all had conversations, right? Some are close talkers, right? If you're a Jerry Seinfeld fan, right? When you notice people starting to close that gap, that's a concern, and we should be paying attention to that.
I just brought it up because I want the viewers, to understand basically what you're saying is, if it's less than 21 feet, you're most likely not going to have time to react. If it's Greg Girelli, sure, he's in good shape, he skis. If it's Tom Engblom, I'm comfortable with 4 feet. It's just, he's going to probably twist his ankle after the first step. But it's interesting that 21 feet is the average amount of time that you're just not going to have time to react and protect yourself. Okay, let's have the rest of our panel jump on. Now, let's go to a break really quick. Let's have our panel come on, and then let's just start tackling all these questions I have. And then Tom, we're going to go to some closing thoughts also. We're not in a rush here at all. We have actually plenty of time for once. Now the lawyers have to stop working, but Dave Burns probably walking a dog or something, or Adam. All right, let's take a Tom, before I take the break, do you think people don't understand the danger? Because I feel like I'm always crying wolf here. Like, the odds of getting attacked are slim, but man, it happens, right?
It certainly happens. And just a little bit of thought and preparation in advance can reduce your chances of being a victim of crime. And if you happen to be a victim of crime, your response will be far better if you just put a little bit of thought and into it in advance.
Okay. And then lawyers, I'm going to ask you what you thought, like, some of the key points were, if you were listening. If you weren't, I understand. Like, what did we bring up that you did not hear before? But with that being said, let's change the attitude a little bit, and let's slow down a little bit, and let's do. I didn't even tell Tommy he was doing this. Dr. Wisdom's break poll question. All right, we don't have a prize, but anyway, you can just play for the fun of it. Let's pretend that the whole audience is going to win this non-existent prize. Tom's job is to pick what the audience picks. All right. So Tom, we're just going to have to rely on your honesty. All right. And before I poll the audience, the question is, if you could give out traffic tickets to jerks, but for each jerk, you had to give out 5 to non-jerks, would you do that job? Would you do that job? Because I would love to get traffic tickets out to jerks. Tom, have you ever been in a position in your career to give out traffic tickets?
No, I have not.
I'm sorry. You probably would have liked that. I probably would have. It sounds like fun. Okay. So that's the question. Tom, do you have the answer in your head?
I do.
All right. I am going to launch the poll. I think this one is going to be a tricky one. And I'm going to ask for some short advice from John. I don't mind putting our panel on the spot personally. John, would you like to give out traffic tickets to jerks, but you'd have to give out 5 other ones to non-jerks for, like, speeding and stuff?
That's not fair.
No, why is it not fair? They're guilty of speeding. Don't get me wrong. You're not.
No, they're all guilty.
Right. They're all guilty, but that could be a hard job to, they're guilty. Like minor infractions.
Yeah. No, all right.
All right. So you would do it?
Yep.
Okay. Greg, would you do it?
I'm going no. I think your 1-to-5 ratio is too high.
I don't know if I believe you, Greg. I think you would love to get a little blue and yellow lights or red lights on your little ATV you got, and, like, drive around your street and just, like, harass people and pull them over and ask their business. I don't know why I think that, but okay. Corey?
No, I wouldn't want to mess with people if either way.
Oh, I would love to get tickets to jerks. That would be wonderful. Adam?
I'm with Greg. Your ratio is just way off here. I mean, if it was lower, just for the opportunity, it maybe there's a handful of people that really need them.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll here for a second, and I'm going to just share the results in the meantime. So, wow, 63% of our audience said that they would not. 30% said that they would. I'm torn. I would be really tempted to do it because the other people are guilty and I can't stand jerks. Dave Byrne,
Yes.
I knew Dave would do it. I knew it. Okay. Awesome. Maybe Dave and I could team up somehow. Tom, Secret Service, would you like to do it or did I ask you or would you?
I would not do it, and because you got to protect the non-jerks, right? So there's so few of us out there.
Okay, whatever. Tom, what was your gut reaction? Are you a winner? Did you get it right or did you get it wrong with the audience?
No, I got it wrong. I would do it, but the opposite was no. So yeah, I lost.
Yeah. So you, Dave, and John would all do it in me, and then everyone else wouldn't. Okay, interesting. I'm happy with that. All right, let's go through. Let me do this. Tom, any questions in regard, not legal or banking or insurance? We're going to do that in a second. Any questions for Tom before I go to the audience questions? If you don't have one, it's fine.
Well, my question is very quick. Do you think most property management companies should have, I guess, a way for ingress to block people from coming in, not allowing them to come in? Is there a better way to do that than not?
Yeah, I mean, access control from a security standpoint is everything, right? Because once you let people into your interior, your sovereign space, then you've lost a lot, and now you're purely reactionary. Even having a camera where you can buzz folks in, things like that. Again, I know we're incurring expenses, and I know people don't like that, but having the ability to have some level of yes, no for who comes into your space is really important.
I mean, like Dave Burns' office has more security seriously than some of the management companies I go to. Some of them I could just literally walk in and there's like one person in it, which
Well,
always kind of shocked me.
I think association lawyers, I don't know what the other guys think, but we have at least the staff does, I think appropriately so, have concerns about owners that are the subject of foreclosures or, bank levies or those kinds of things, which are, they're hard things for people.
Really.
Even if we're doing our job, no one likes to foreclose on someone, especially if someone's unable to pay because of an illness or some unfortunate kind of thing. But we have to do our jobs. But I think our staff is concerned about someone just legitimately, even not in a violent way, but just sort of like coming in and saying, "Why are you trying to take my house?" That, and those are very difficult situations to be in if you find yourself in. So our door doesn't open at all. Everything has to be left outside. You have to buzz.
Okay.
The person has to be buzzed in. But I guess if you're crafty enough, you could just hide behind the column and jump in once we open the door for ourselves. I don't know.
Right. And
Piggybacking is a problem everywhere, right?
And I purposely didn't call the program "How to Protect Yourself If You're an Attorney" because I don't think anybody would care. I'm sorry, guys. Like,
Well, and just to add to that,
hold on. Don't get me off on a sidetrack, Tom, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, surprising. I visit a lot of management companies and they have an open door policy.
Yep.
And I'm just shocked that they allow that to happen.
Me too. All right. So I'm going to go to the panel, but back and forth with the questions. So with many people working from home these days, there may be a skeleton in the office, leaving them more vulnerable if there are only a few people working in the actual office. Yeah, 100%. I see it. I visit management companies all the time, and even community clubhouses and things like that. There's nobody around. Something could definitely happen. All right, Tom, what about tasers? How do you feel about using that as a weapon?
So just like we talked about with the mace, all personal defense weapons have pluses and minuses. Tasers, commercially available, citizen tasers, you got to be really close to people to use those. And so it's my recommendation not to get that close or not to be that close to people as much as possible. And also the tasers that are commercially available, they work if it's used really properly, right? But there's a lot of misuse of tasers. Again, I'm not trying to advocate for one or the other per se, but it's not a magic bullet. And so tasers, just like mace, it comes with pluses and minuses.
Man, I don't like them at all, especially the ones you got to like physically get an arm's length to hit them with. And who the hell is going to be qualified to fire a taser as a gun? How much practice can you do? I'm participating. I'm going to go through the audience questions first. I realize I want to get them done. And participating in my local police department Citizens Academy. I am participating in the local police Citizens Academy and doing a ride along with an officer this Saturday, 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. This is a good way to learn about the community and protect yourself. I think that is a good thing to do. And I think you would have fun doing it. Tom, do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. The closer connection you have with your community's first responders, it's only positive.
I would like to do it, Tom, but I want to be armed. Is that possible to do the ride?
I'm not sure. I don't think the Secret Service has armed ride-alongs. I don't think we do that, but yeah.
Get it. That's not fun. All right. I have, oh, someone's just telling me they have to step away and they'll be right back asking for a copy. Okay. Oh, a lot of questions about tasers. I have a board member that has an order of protection on a unit owner. The unit owner just sent an email to the board looking forward to the annual meeting. I'm going to clean your clocks. Should I be concerned? Tom, I'm going to say.
Yeah. You don't need to be in the Secret Service 25 years to realize that you got to take people at their word, right? When people make threats, when people do those types of things, you again, you have to take them at their word. I think the days of, brushing off commentary like that are over. And when you get things either in person or digitally, you need to take them seriously.
John, legal on that. I don't like that at all.
I don't like that at all either. I agree with Tom. Take them at their word. Probably everyone on this panel has experienced altercations at board and unit owner meetings. They can get out of hand real quick. So yeah, and importantly, condos and HOAs are private. We don't have condo boards don't have the ability to enforce the penal law. The police do. Contact the police.
Right.
Corey, this person has a protection order from a board member, but it's at a meeting they're entitled to go to. Does that override the protection order?
No, and that would be, if that person should call the police if that protection order is violated and let the police handle it. It shouldn't be the responsibility of the manager or a board.
Adam, this sounds like action needs to be taken, like the police need to be at the meeting. I think this board member has every right to feel safe at the meeting. What legal?
That wasn't a legal question. What are you asking, Ray?
What do you think the legal aspects of this and about the question, and also about my comments, how the board member has a right to ask for some kind of safety?
Well, I mean, John and Corey have already covered the legal aspects of the question. I mean, it's not an association obligation. Unless you've got an association-based restraining order, association doesn't have enforcement powers. Individual restraining orders, their own restraining order, and those individuals are the ones that are going to be responsible for enforcing it. The association does have an obligation because the association directors are technically employees, even though they're volunteer employees. So there is a safety-based obligation for the association. So hopefully that association is going to either take the appropriate aspects to get security and or police involved. Obviously, the police are the best if you can get them there. But the reality is most of the time you're not going to be able to get police at your meetings. It's just they're not going to come in advance and they're not necessarily going to send you somebody off duty. But that's why Zoom's great. You can do it by Zoom, and it's really hard to shoot people through Zoom. I don't know. You have to ask Tom about that. That's not legal advice. That's just me guessing. But I think technically,
I actually was going to bring that up about the virtual option again, just like terminations. And so it's just remove that from the option list.
You're really focused on determinations, Tom. I guess that's because that's a part of a lot of the consulting you do. I'm making an assumption here. Is that true?
It is to some degree, but it is also a big source of violence in the workplace, of those situations, because of all the it's obviously a stressful time for everybody, and people respond to stress in different ways, right? So you think Tom is easygoing, nice, no problem, smiley, but when you get under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, people respond differently and sometimes unpredictably.
Did you were using Tom Ingbloom as an example?
Well, he's even better. He's even nicer.
You were. Be honest. You're afraid of Tom.
It's a little awkward, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dave, you're an attorney. I give you a call. You're my attorney, and I say somebody said that they're going to clean my clock at the meeting, and I have an order of protection. What is your advice going to be?
If the person shows up in violation of the restraining order, call the police,
Okay.
right?
Nothing before that?
I mean, I'm not a criminal law expert. I don't know that
Okay.
anything's actionable unless there's some restraining order that prohibits you from telling someone you're going to come clean their clock. But I mean, which I guess is possible. But I agree with Adam's point too. As an association attorney, you know, there's some overflow, you know, with the association's responsibility with these things when the protectee, right? Is the protectee, Tom? Is that the person you're protecting? When the
Very nice.
protectee
Yeah,
of
I like it.
of the restraining order is a board member, but on the other hand, it's an individualized thing. So it would depend on the facts. I mean, but there is some potential association involvement, but instinctively and initially, it's probably not an association thing, but there could be.
Greg, insurance aspect.
Not sure the insurance aspects, but this just leads into it's very easy to have prearranged protection and do the right thing in the insurance agency's office, the lawyer's office, the property manager's office. But a lot of times, property managers, they're on site, they're at annual meetings, they're out in the open, they're just handling situations, and these things happen when you are least expecting them. So it is the de-escalation communication tactics that are going to help you, hopefully, the best.
Okay. Tom, anything to add to this? Any
No,
other
I
advice?
think we've covered it. I mean, my focus is always on prevention. And so I like the way we're having this discussion of what can we do in advance of an issue.
Yeah, I meant to cover this threat. I would take it as a threat.
Oh,
If somebody
yeah.
threatens me, I'm
Yeah.
gonna take them at their word that they mean it.
No question. Yeah. I mean, and I understand we're talking about from a legal standpoint, what can be
Yeah.
done with the protection order, but I would take some steps whenever I could to strengthen my own individual security under that.
Sometimes I feel like Adam's mean to be Tom, and I feel like I need some like emotional protection. So I don't know where I can go for that. But anyway.
Right.
Okay. He's actually very nice to me. John, any questions? Viewpoints?
Well, just a quick observation. Adam did correct you, so you were right.
I told you.
He did.
He did. I told you,
and
Tom.
Back in the pre-remote meeting days, my advice was always, if you think something's going to get out of hand, you don't have to continue with the meeting. If you can't get the police there, you don't have to meet. Meeting adjourned. You're not there to be, accosted and assaulted.
It's not a suicide pact, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's says that Adam could be insecure around me. No, it could be. All right. Greg, any questions for Tom? If you don't have one, it's fine.
No, we've covered some great parts here. Nothing jumping out off the top of my head.
Corey, true or false? You tried to climb the White House fence once.
Actually, well, I grabbed it. I didn't try to climb over it, but I did jump up on it once.
I thought
Did you
you
have
looked familiar.
Did you have any questions?
No, I did want to mention that when I served on a board of a community I used to live in, and I was the president of the association, I made sure to find out who the police officer was that does the patrol in that area,
Right.
and develop a personal relationship. So if anything, just so he knew, he was aware of what's going on in the neighborhood, and it was just a good personal contact to have. And we did call on him a few times with illegal dumping or anything that went on. It's a really good personal connection to have.
And that's an excellent practice. Not only for, you name it, corporate, home, everywhere, to know your first responders. It's great.
What type of advice would you or do you provide the females in your life to protect themselves? Tom, I don't see this as any different sometimes than males, because I think a lot of males overestimate themselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, the overconfidence and situational awareness. Those are the two things that I preach to my wife all the time, and my kids, frankly, since a very, very young age, is you have to understand what's going on around you. Criminals will size you up very quickly, in seconds, to see whether you are a viable candidate or not, right? They don't want to get caught and they don't want to get hurt. And so if you can increase your chances of them getting caught or getting hurt, that's to your benefit. And so situational awareness, number one, and then the overconfidence piece we've hit on a few times here. It's not the movies. You're not going to just, respond amazingly and do kung fu and things like this that you've practiced once in 10 years. It's just not going to happen. So those two things, situational awareness, which means taking your earphone. I know this is gonna drive some people crazy. Ear pods, right? People are walking around. They're they can't hear anything around them. Their head is in their phone, and I mean they're just screaming, "I'm a victim." And so situational awareness is key.
I think for managers and boards, they need to be careful too, because they could be concentrating on one individual giving them a hard time. And then I know this sounds insane. Dave will back me up. The wife could come up and like smack you in the back of the head with something. Once you're in that heated confrontation with an owner, you don't know what their partner's going to do. Tom, am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I have not dealt with much domestic violence investigations in my career, but it is a well-known fact that domestic violence calls are among the most dangerous for law enforcement, not because of the aggressor, but because now there's two people that will turn on law enforcement when they get there. And so exactly the same in this case.
Adam, is it true that assault is a threat and that actual physical aspect is battery?
Yes.
Good job. I concur. Adam, do you have any? Are you going to be nice to Tom? You're not going to. I just want to make sure he is our guest today and everything. And you seem like you're kind of you have a lot going on today. And do you have a question for Tom?
I've enjoyed listening to Tom. I don't have a question for him. He's just been very thorough.
I have questions for Tom.
I was saving Dave for last, Tom. Let me just sit back because he's very. Dave is like so highly intelligent. I guarantee he has 1,000 questions. He does. Go ahead, Dave.
I have a list of the questions with respect to the Butler shooting I'd like answered.
Sure.
I also need you to run through some things I've watched about the RFK killing, which I'm not satisfied with the result.
RFK or JFK?
And frankly, Oswald was not the killer. I need to know what happened. So you could start wherever you want and finish wherever you want.
Yeah. You start with the easy ones, right? So I'm not so sure the listeners
let's
want to
do
hear.
it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about any NDA or any nonsense. So just give me.
Well, I'm retired now, so I still have some NDAs that linger around there. I'm not sure. Obviously, you hit on some hot button issues there. So I don't know if you're seriously asking me or if you're just.
If you're seriously willing to answer, then I'm definitely seriously asking.
All right, let me tell you something.
On this forum, yeah, right.
I put these videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Granted, they're not like hot videos, but like somebody takes and edits that now all of a sudden and puts you and Tom together, Dave. And now all of a sudden it's a viral video. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's going to be retired Secret Service agent admits to having NDA about.
Please don't even say it. No.
Adam, I need a lawyer.
I'm over talking you on purpose because I don't even want that to show up in the YouTube transcript. Because that's what happens too. YouTube reads the transcript and they can look at those transcripts too, Dave.
I think I got you some ratings.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need. Okay.
I will say this. Can I just say 10 seconds?
Of course.
So, in the Butler situation, so in my vintage, a lot of the senior leadership were my vintage, right? So were people that I know, and I can only say this: tactical mistakes, unquestionable, no doubt. But those are good-hearted patriots, that the senior leaders that I know out there, and I've known them for 20 plus years. So there's mistakes happen, unfortunately, and it was obviously everyone has and should pay a stiff penalty for that, but it wasn't anything nefarious in my opinion.
Thank you, Tom. Ray, can I ask one question? This is actually a serious question.
Yes.
Tom, like when some emergency things happen, like I've seen this with. I've seen plane crashes, like bodies end up without their clothing on, or like Trump gets shot and his shoes come off. Like how does stuff like that happen?
I think it's just a matter of, well, in some cases it's some kind of just forces against the human body, right? And then other things when they're moving President Trump, at the time, former President Trump. I mean, they're not stopping for his shoes. They're just picking them up and moving.
But how do they come off though? Are they like untied? I mean, how do they come off to begin with?
Oh, I'm not sure about his shoes. To me, I don't know if he had slip-ons. That I couldn't tell you. I'd have to look at.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, there's a video. He's like, let me get.
Don't forget, Dave. There's like 4 people climbed on top of him. Somebody probably could have just caught his heel.
So is that how it happens? I guess maybe.
I'm
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. Ideally, in training, it's not supposed to happen that way, but in real life, it gets messier.
All right, completely off topic. All right, now let's go. I want to make sure I leave Tom enough time for his closing thoughts.
Yeah.
Tom Ingblom, and then there's a couple legal questions I want to get through at the end for overtime. Any commentary, closing thoughts for today?
The only comment I thought what Tom did was great, and managers typically prepare emergency disaster plan, and everything that Tom talked about, they should incorporate that into that plan to be prepared for every property they have.
John, anything to add?
No, I mean, it's been really interesting. We always talk about de-escalating, but you know, it's with remote meetings, you have another tool, but all great advice.
Greg.
Excellent advice. Really love the seminar. Definitely the takeaway being plan in advance, have a plan, have keywords to signify something so somebody doesn't know that you're triggering a plan to go into effect. Is great advice.
Corey, what stood out from today that you didn't hear about before?
I really like the focus on the situation awareness, and you know, I try to teach my daughter and my wife threat assessment, and confidence. The overconfidence is very important. We always tell our daughter, you know, if she's in a situation at school or whatnot, never to cry in front of the person who's bullying her. Wait till she gets in the car afterward, because that's you know, crying or weakness is fuel to any bully.
When Adam's mad at me, I wait to cry until I get in the car, just so everyone knows. Okay? No, I'm kidding. Adam.
I would just bring up, you know, we talked a lot about safety, security measures. We've talked about guns. While there's a lot of rights to having guns and utilizing them in certain situations, we really didn't get into the insurance aspects of that and the legality of doing that in a lot of situations, because most situations, your association boards aren't going to be, in addition to not having the training to be able to utilize them properly, as Tom's pointed out, they're also, like, your boards and your security personnel might not have the proper training to use them in a legal manner that is not going to blow back on the entire association and make everyone in the association liable. And particularly point to that, and teeing one up for Greg here, is that there's a big difference in having armed versus unarmed security, and you need to talk to your insurance professional, because these measures that you're putting in place, be it cameras, every security measure you put in place also has a legal ramification to what happens as to the association with it, as well as what your insurance will and will not cover. So there's a lot of aspects of this that, you know, there's a lot of folks you need to be looking at and talking to when you're getting into these plans.
I think that's great advice. What you're saying too, Adam, is like, before you put cameras in, before you want to ask an attorney or professional, like, hey, if we do this, what are the possible ramifications of this, or what are the requirements that we should look into? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, part of it, yeah. I mean, for example, if you've got board members decide they're going to put up the cameras themselves because they just save money, and they didn't come out to a proper consultant like Tom or another security professional, they didn't cover the proper fields of view, but now they've got security cameras, and now something happens, you're in a different liability situation than you are if you had gone to the proper professional and they did cover the proper field of view. Because in the latter, you did your due diligence. In the former, you were reckless as to the impact on what would happen with your security installation.
Excellent. Greg, any quick commentary? I want to leave Tom the closing thoughts for today.
No, that was excellent advice, Adam. And there's a huge difference between having armed security and unarmed security at a meeting, and it's something you need to go over with all of your professionals as you're making these decisions, because there can be gaps in coverage or possibly no coverage depending on the instances that could occur on this.
What struck me was when Adam said, if you put your own cameras in and then you don't have the proper lines of sight, you could get sued because you put them in and you didn't do a good job and they're not covering a certain area. I think that's super interesting. Tom, last words, and then audience, if you want to stay and hear I'm going to do a quick Q&A with the attorneys unrelated to this topic. for future use. But Tom, last word.
Last word. Thank you very much for having me this morning. Plan, prepare, don't get surprised, right? That if I had to just give it in 1-2 elevator pitch, situational awareness, de-escalation skills are key. Practice them. You're not as good at them as you think you are.
Awesome. I appreciate you being here so much. Audience, once again, if you want to hear the legal Q&A, it's going to take 5 minutes. You're welcome to stay. If not, thanks so much. And please be careful. Please take care of yourself. And Tom, once again, we're going to definitely have you back if you're willing to come back, and we'll dive deeper into some of these different aspects for people. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. You can take off, Tom, and I'll hang out with the lawyers here. You guys got time? Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. And
Tom.
Dave, the real person that shot JFK.
I like how he did it at the very end. It was pretty. That was like really clever.
You got to have that guy on like maybe every other.
I know.
He's good.
That was like awesome. I would have never thought of doing that in 1,000 seconds.
He even made it, even early on. He even made a good point, which Adam I think built on later in the association context. But early on, Tom Landry's made the point about like with even a gun where people have guns and there's a new sort of impetus to have your gun carry with you or bring to the office or something. And he made a great point, which is that if you don't actually know how to use the gun, you're actually causing yourself more problems or your office more problems. It's like you feel like the gun gives you protection, but if you don't know how to use it, it actually will end up being used against you, most likely.
I don't think that's a shocker, though, Dave. I mean, that's so obvious.
No, I think I don't know. I think, but people feel like they're now empowered to carry weapons, which might be a good thing. But yet, I feel like, you know, if I mean, I have a gun at home, but I don't think I should be carrying my gun around because if there's ever an altercation, someone will probably likely take it off me, and I don't feel that I can in some crazy mall shooting, I'm going to be able to shoot some guy from 100 feet away. I'll end up killing somebody else. I mean, you know, it's like what's the point of having it with me if it's only being used against me? I need to be trained. I need to learn how to do it. Probably like Corey does. That he's talked before about his family being trained with those things, and that's how you really, you know, set yourself apart when you're engaging in the weapon context.
In an emergency situation, you don't have time to think. You just resort to your training. Your body is like a golf swing. Your muscle memory, and so if you're not training and keeping up with your training, then, like you said, it's not going to help you.
It's obvious that Corey's is the wrong house to break into, because how old is your youngest one?
She's almost 13.
Corey probably had him trained at the age of 8. You probably have like an 8-year-old like blasting you away, highly trained in jiu-jitsu, along with weapon training. Okay, Tom Ingblom, you can jump off if you want. And thank you as always, Tom. Much, much appreciated. This is kind of a long question I have here. So I do appreciate when people send them in. So I do like to get to them. It's 4 slides. So here we go. If an HOA has in the bylaws and the confidence that say to contact the HOA board, a mailbox address in the subdivision is stated, and the HOA maintains a Facebook page intended for members only to communicate, can they direct all questions and complaints to a separate Gmail address mentioned in a post from the HOA secretary? This appears as though the board is attempting to filter questions and complaints from all members. I found the question confusing, John, but I just like to ask them sometimes as I get them.
Yeah, like first of all, what are you doing? Like Facebook for your notifications? If you wanted to do it, I guess you could, but you'd have to amend your bylaws. You know, the bylaws, as you stated, have a different method of notice. So the Facebook is not, it's not going to comport with the bylaws.
Hey, right. If an HOA has in the bylaws and confidence, it says that to contact the HOA board. Corey.
Listen, at the end of the day, you know, an HOA is a corporation, and every corporation has to be registered with the Secretary of State in pretty much every state. In Florida, at least, you go to sunbiz.org, you type in the association's name, and there's a mailing address. That's the official address for the association. So if you're worried about being filtered or whatnot, send by certified mail to the address located on the Secretary of State's website, and that's sufficient.
Adam, it says here that they're using Facebook to communicate with their members, but they're just not going to respond to anything unless it's by Gmail, unless it's by email direct. I don't, like we always talk about, don't have a Facebook page because they say it's intended for members. Well, anybody can look at it, but what is the nothing. I'm glad the person sent the question in, but the board has a right. Just they don't have to respond on Facebook. Is that what they're asking here, Adam? Do you think, or because that's what it seems like?
I mean, first, I agree with John, Corey, what they've covered, and then based on the way you're kind of directing this question, Ray, I think this comes down to what is a tremendous misnomer amongst homeowners, in that they think that the board has to talk to them or respond to them, or that management does. And outside of the handful of things that, there's a handful of obligations under state law. If there's any specific obligations under the bylaws, you've got to follow those. But outside of like the regulations and requirements that have very limited items, like giving people budgets and giving people copies of the governing documents and having a hearing for a violation, outside of a handful of items, architectural approval, there's no time that the board has to talk to you. They don't have to talk to you. So, it's a privilege. And if they want to grant you that privilege in other manners, they can do that.
To Adam's point, they write, this appears as though the board is attempting to filter questions and complaints. Dave, Adam's saying, and if I'm wrong, Adam, you stop me. Yeah, the board can decide what questions and complaints to respond to. Dave.
Yeah, I can see why an owner would think that it's designed to filter out, like to make it like a Byzantine maze of communication sources to deter people from communicating. I do agree with Adam. I say this all the time, even to clients, even in the context of board meetings. Now this might be different for Corey, because Corey's mentioned this before with respect to Florida, but like in states like New Jersey, board members don't have to stand and take questions from owners at meetings. They don't have to answer questions. In that regard, I tell boards it's like a glorified cocktail party. If you want to stay around and talk to people, be my guest. If you don't, you're not a slave to the association as long as you're on the board. You can leave whenever you want. I would say there should be some generalized sort of notice thing, but this question seems odd. I'll say one last thing. From a corporation perspective, Corey's, I think, correct. I also think that lawyers, when we do contracts, we have like what's called a notice section. Like we make it so that notices aren't effective unless they're done a certain way. So I can see why the person who asked the question might be skeptical or suspicious of what's going on, because an entity that wants to get notice of something usually makes it clear how to give them notice. An entity doesn't want to know anything, usually tries to make it difficult to tell them anything. Don't ask, don't tell. When you don't want to know anything, you don't set up a way for you to be told.
Yeah, I bet besides the fact that they have their own Facebook page, which you guys a lot of times don't like, they're basically saying, you just got to email us if you have any questions. We're not going to respond on Facebook. Why any association would want to have a Facebook page that they then have to be responsible to keep an eye on the comments for, I don't have a clue. But does anybody disagree with that or feel I was really off base on that?
I don't disagree.
No.
Okay, there's one more I got if you guys don't mind. I'm just going to wait 3 seconds here so I can use it as a recording. What can an HOA board do legally if two rogue board members use the unofficial Facebook group as their place to slander, defame, harass, etc. the other board members, and use the unofficial Facebook group for official business? There's two parts here, so I'll go the other way around and I'll start with Dave Byrne.
I would say first that and I think the other guys will probably say this as well, that the question sort of presupposes things that might not necessarily be the case. A lot of people's slander and defamation is, another person's free speech and legitimate political discourse. So I wouldn't assume the premise of the question at all. Even if it is slander and defamation, there's nothing really that people can do other than respond in kind. I mean, I don't think there's rarely any association power to suspend people's rights to put stuff on Facebook. Right? That's the challenge that my boards have, and unless there's something unusual, that's kind of the position I think I take usually.
But Dave, keep in mind they're saying these are two rogue board members. They're board members.
Yeah.
You don't feel that makes a difference?
I mean, no, I don't think so.
Adam, I know we've mentioned before that board members need to be really careful what they say and what they post. Commentary?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say, I agree with David because generally these things come in and that's almost never the case. They're almost never actually slander, it's defamation.
Right.
Opinion. Assuming that these facts that are asserted in here are true, assuming that there is legitimate defamation and slander on there, and assuming that this unofficial Facebook page actually uses the exact name of the HOA, and they're basically misleading people as to whether or not they're acting in their official capacity, even though it's in an unofficial Facebook page. The association, if they're board members, then they could be potentially in breach of their fiduciary obligations to the association because they're taking the association's name and using it properly. They're also acting as board members in a manner that's not authorized by a majority of the board. So these would be breaches which could be compelled to stop depending what they are. Now, keep in mind, if you're trying to do that, stopping this is extremely difficult. And the difference between shutting down a Facebook page is they got to tweak the name by like a word or a disclaimer, and you're done. So you try to mount up a big case or anything, you're going to spend a lot of money on something that somebody can fix in 30 seconds. So it's tough unless you've got a lot of facts. What they should do is contact their association's attorney and then really get in touch and dig into what's particularly going on.
I'm going to go to you too, Greg, on this if there's an insurance aspect of a lawsuit. Corey.
Depending upon the facts of what's actually being said, it may be necessary for the board at its next board meeting to pass a resolution distancing itself from those communications, so it doesn't become, an official communication of the board and have that resolution in the minutes of the meeting.
John, commentary, but you agree also this is like a terrible idea for board members to be talking about official association business on a Facebook page, or maybe you don't.
No, I agree with you. That's not a good move for the board. I agree with everyone also that there's little you can do. We've mentioned before in these panels about cease and desist letters. You could try that because it's conceivably a nuisance, and nuisances are very broad. Is it really actionable? Hopefully not, because you will not have sustained any damages. But I think best practices is similar to what Corey was mentioning, is try to nip it in the bud. Use your bully, pulpit to have a meeting or send out a newsletter saying, you might have heard these rumors. Here's what's really going on. Because in the end, that's what it is, right? With all the smearing, and it's just misinformation.
Greg, from an insurance aspect, do board members give up some of their coverage if they are doing something in the public realm with an unofficial Facebook page that the rest of their board members have told them not to do?
No, they're not necessarily giving up some of their coverage. I agree with a lot of the commentary the lawyers just gave. In this instance alone, there usually isn't a lot of damages that could be proven, but this is usually brought in as parts of a larger case. And that's where we see this either on a personal injury side or a director's and officer's liability claim. We'll see this aspect just brought in, but not on its own basis where this is the only thing going on.
All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for answering, and thank you for being here. And I'll see some of you, I think, on Thursday, possibly. I'm not sure. Anyway, bye, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, audience, for staying.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.